Hey, are you worried about getting your CSRD report audit proof? In this podcast episode, I'm going to talk to Giacomo, who is a CSRD auditor, and in this episode, he shares some valuable tips and recommendations. So if this sounds interesting to you, definitely check out this podcast episode. Hey, Giacomo, and first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. For those of the listeners that don't know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you and welcome everyone. I'm Giacomo Greci. I'm a chartered accountant, a statutory auditor, and a sustainability advisor for all these new upcoming CSRD requirement about the sustainability reporting. From the last 3 years, I started also my teaching for professional and company about the SRS and CSRD, helping them and transfer my experience to them to make them more easy for the sustainability reporting requirement under the CSRD.
Yeah, super interesting. I'm very glad that I can finally speak to a CSRD auditor because I feel like I talk to so many companies that are all afraid of the CSRD and they know that it has to go through the audit. So I'm very glad that I now have you in front of me and we can actually talk about this topic. Maybe before we start diving into this, like how did you come into this position? Like, were you doing auditing before? Do you have a background in sustainability? How did you get into this position?
Yeah, I started from studying the auditing of financial statement because every CSRD auditor comes from a financial statement auditing, at least for the last 25 years. And I approached the sustainability field and more or less 5 or 6 years ago, which was arising the interest for European Union and other countries and all the people to the sustainability stuff. And when the CSRD and the ESRS came out, it was for me a new revolution, a new passion for me, which I study a lot confronting with other professionals all around the world. And then I start to teach the people to let them know what they will be facing in the years that we are now. Now the European Union is like a high-speed train into this sustainability matter, which they want the company to be sustainable and be transparent to everyone, to all the stakeholders.
Okay, perfect. So let's dive directly into the CSRD. I feel like there's still a lot of confusion around it. So maybe let's start with like, what is the status of the CSRD auditing? Can you maybe tell us a little bit about like what is known and what is still unknown about CSRD auditing?
Well, actually, we know that the company which are under CSRD and they're doing their sustainability reporting, it must be audited by a auditor, which is different, but maybe we will talk a little bit later. And this is the what we know, and the principle that they must be used, which are the ESRS principle. They use for the CSRD reporting. This is the same that as an auditor we must check against. So it's more like our role. It's a compliance role from what they are putting on the report to what the ESRS are stating. There are obviously some unclear step which we need to address, which is about the type of control on the sustainability report. Because we have experience with the financial report, with all the type of control we need to do, etc. But for the sustainability report, it's a bit different because we are not talking only about numbers. We are talking about the narrative. We are talking about project. We are talking about all the narrative part, which I can say almost 70% of the sustainability report. This is much difficult for us to address all those statements to see and be sure that it's true and it's correct and it's not something that it will go under the greenwashing side, which is very bad for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that it's very difficult, also in your position to then like audit a CSRD or sustainability report and go onto all of those um, qualitative data points that are required. So who can then like be in CSRD auditor? Because I feel like there's a lot of like expertise from the auditing side and the sustainability side that now has to like come together. So, and this is also a question I receive quite often, like who are CSRD auditors?
That's a very good question because it is asked many times. Everyone must obey with the national law. Every company must obey with national law. They need to check the transposition law of the CSRD directive because the CSRD open up to a different type of professional for the auditing, which are the statutory auditor and the independent parties. From what I know, at today, only one country open up to other independent parties, which are the one which are certifying the ISO certification. But all other countries are going towards the statutory auditor because actually the sustainability report have a lot of financial data inside, and there are a very strong connection with the financial statement. So already a statutory auditor which are doing the auditing of financial statement will make more easy for audit also the sustainability report, even if there are some part, for example, the environmental and social stuff, which make us a little bit difficult to check if we don't have the experience. But as the auditing principle stating, even for financial statement, we state for the sustainability report, we can have hire an expert in our team to help us with all those sections which we don't have experience with. So they can check the CO2 emission or water usage or the policy or target of the company. And if they meet and they are correct, from what they see from the documentation that the company must give to them. So it's more like a team work than a person one.
Okay. So in general, it's basically CSRD auditor are the financial auditors. Of course, it depends on the transposition. So every country needs to look for themselves. And then it's financial auditors that are basically a team of different experts where you can like get more expertise in to then like really assess the CSRD report of a company and make sure that everything is done right.
Exactly, because company can choose to give the engagement to the same statutory auditor of financial statement, or they can have a different one. But of course, all the two statutory auditor must talk all together because they need to match all the type of control that they are doing. And the expert is much more important in the CSRD audit than the audit of financial statement.
Mhm. Okay. So let's say that I'm a company and I'm in the scope of the CSRD. Like, how can I find an auditor that can help me with the CSRD report?
Usually it's the same place where you can find a statutory auditor for the financial statement. Every country have the national government which list all the statutory auditor which are enabled to give the assurance. And from what I see, they are like doing two different lists for the statutory auditor for only the financial statement and the one which asked for to be enabled also to release the assurance for the sustainability reporting. So every company must check the national government, the section where they list all the statutory auditor and check there for the auditor which can release the assurance for the financial statement for the sustainability report.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's focus a little bit more on the company perspective on all of this. So, what would you say must companies be aware of in terms of the CSRD auditing? Are there do you already see like common mistakes? I know it's quite early, but like maybe common mistakes or misconceptions that are out there, or what would you say should companies be aware of?
I can say it's not early because the company must start early for their sustainability report. And in my honest opinion, they must work all together with the auditor. Because, for example, the first step you do are the value chain mapping, stakeholder mapping, double materiality assessment. Those are a very big part of the audit, which the auditor can already audit all those steps and come along with the company and help also them to give some tips to collect the documentation, because company must understand that the very key point of all the audit is have all the documentation in place.
Mhm.
Because actually we are checking documentation, we are checking the processes, and we are not going very deep on the data. So the very key point is this: documentation. I repeat, in every occasion I have, documentation is the key, because it speed up also the audit process, which can last longer if the company don't give us the paper which we can be sure of what is written on the sustainability report.
Okay. So if I engage with the auditor early and I make very sure that I have a clear focus on the documentation, can I then like, ah, is this ensuring that like the CSRD report is then audit proof? Or is there like more that I can do before so I know like, okay, this is definitely gonna be good enough?
Not really, because there is another step, which is the
Mhm,
internal control. The internal
mhm,
control is something which we will check at the beginning of the audit process, because data comes from a path on all the company. Or if we think about the consolidated sustainability report, we have a subsidiary data coming from other country. We need to be sure that the internal control function is working, is effective, and we can be sure that all the data are the integrity of the data. So if we are sure that, but how we can be sure if there are, for example, some documentation stating that someone is taking the data, another one is controlling the data, and another one is finalizing and give the okay for the sustainability report and so on. So if there are multiple people checking those, then we can be sure that did this correctly. We lower our type of control, and everything is much smoother. Of course, if there is only one person working with an Excel file with all the data, you can imagine that it's much difficult to be sure that all the data are correct.
yeah, that's actually a very interesting point. Maybe I can like jump in right there. So, what is your opinion on like companies working with an Excel file or with a software solution? Because I hear very different opinions there. So, I would be curious what you like. Do you have a different feeling if you see an Excel file or a software solution, or what do you think?
Well, for me, every type of tools you use is useful if everything is correct. Of course, in as this is a the reporting is much more complex than what we have seen in the past when we were using the GRI or whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
then it's for me, it's much better if we use a software which help the company to maybe check every disclosure requirement, give all the explanation, taking some notes, touching documentation, because this is something which help the consistency of everything which is written on sustainability report. So maybe you don't find something which maybe you modify some metrics and you did not adjust your policy or your target or whatever. So it helped a lot the company and help also us, because I've seen some software which you can give access to the software of the auditor, and that the auditor will have all the documentation in place. This is not possible with the an Excel file. Also, the revision control. This is something which how many steps with the sustainability report pass throughout from the revision 1 to the final revision. So this is something which we must track. We must know which are the section which maybe was removed, was added, and so on. So yeah, actually, I feel that it's much better to use the software than the Excel files.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's very, very interesting to hear that from you, and very good explanation, because yeah, I can definitely see how there's a big difference if you have like an Excel file with like all the different things and you try to like keep an overview, or you have a software. But it's obviously the software need to be able to like do everything correctly. But if that's the case, then that sounds definitely very helpful.
Yeah, they both
Mhm.
give you the result, which is the data for the sustainability report. They give you in different way.
Yeah, yeah, very true. So, how would you recommend companies to like work with uncertainty? Because I feel like there's still, with like the political landscape we have, there's still like a lot of uncertainty. And also with like the CSRD reports, I sometimes get questions where companies like really deep dive on a certain data point, and they're like, "Oh yeah, how should we do this with this data point? I know it has to be like this, but in our circumstance, it's completely different, and there's no example for this, and this is a unique situation." And I'm also looking at those, and I'm trying to like recommend a good expert for this, but I also don't really know. So how would you recommend to like work with a company if they have really an edge case that is like very individual and not really specified so far?
Maybe at first try to call a sustainability expert like me. So, or
Yeah.
apart from that, there are a lot of difficulties because we are evolving. We are studying with the company as an auditor and the company for the sustainability report. There are
Mhm.
tons and tons of documentation coming out from IFRAG, and more will come. New directive, for example, the CSDD is another directive which maybe most of the company will not obey with, but they must know because GOV4 state that you need to report in your sustainability report your due diligence part. So there are a lot of documentation which we must keep updated. We have almost the next 2 years, which we will have more example, more best practice from the companies, which everyone can learn and can understand about how other companies are doing, and then we can do ourselves the same. So we are evolving. We must keep studying and also maybe taking some course. And another key focus, which where I was talking yesterday with a team of the company, was about the teaching at least the ESRS 1, 2, the cross-cutting. At least teach this to all the key function of the company, because
Mhm.
everyone in the key position must understand how those things are working, and it's not about one person which is in charge for environmental, one person for the social stuff, and so on. Everyone at least must have the basics of the ESRS and the CSRD, and then we have
Mhm.
some professional expertise which for the sustainability report they do their specific part, but a general understanding of this, it's very much very important and crucial. Also, it's very useful to know for the company the auditing principle which we use, because it's like if you know your enemies, you know how to to beat them. So
Yeah.
it's there are the new standard, the ISSA 5000, which is the will be in charge in the next years, and it's very useful because they point about the difference of limited assurance, reasonable assurance, type of control, and the deep of control we must do for the quantitative data, the qualitative data. It's very interesting, and it's focusing on those type of maybe question which we ask for the company. They must
Mhm.
not be worried about what we are asking, because mostly we exceed our type of control being more deep, but just because we want to be sure, especially on those first years of application, that what you write on sustainability report is okay and is transparent, and the stakeholder can be assured of what they are reading from the company.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So the document you mentioned last, like where can companies find this? Like if this is like super helpful to someone, like where can they look for this?
Yeah, I can send you the link, but it's on the ISAB website.
Mhm.
And also, I'm working on a checklist which will be helping the auditor for using the ISSA 5000. So it's just a starting point to at least have everything in place and to plan correctly all the auditing process, which is not about 1 month of work, but it's much longer, as involved step by step, like we said before.
Oh yeah, such a checklist I think sounds super helpful. I think a lot of companies would be very thankful for this. So if you have anything already ready, like feel free to like send me the link and I can put it into the show notes. Or other than that, I will just like make sure to like link to your page so that they can reach out to you or like make sure to like find it somewhere.
Absolutely, it will be my pleasure. I will send you as soon as.
Perfect. Then thank you so much for your time, Giacomo. These were all the questions that I had. I'm really thankful that you gave me an insight into like all the different topics and also shared your recommendations. I think that will be very helpful for a lot of companies.
Thank you for the opportunity, and whenever you need, we can talk and we can do the second part when in the next month when we will have much more experience on this.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you have come this far, thank you so much for listening to the AtlasZero podcast. Before you leave, I want to mention two more things. First, if you're looking for an ESG solution, we have a free search on our website. There, you have to answer around 10 questions about your company, and we will then filter our database and send you a list of solutions that might be the right one for you. This is by no means perfect, but it's meant to break the decision paralysis a lot of companies are experiencing and help you to get started easily. And second, and I have to ask this, please like and subscribe to the AtlasZero podcast. It helps us a lot to reach more people, and at the end of the day, our goal is to reach as many people as possible. So, thank you so much, and I hope to see you very soon.